Hello, ladies. I am Leela Harris, and this is my dear friend Christy Lar. We serve in the full-time ministry here with the Midpoint Ministry Center, part of the Chicago Church of Christ. We're so happy that you are here with us today to celebrate International Women's Day. To this year, our event is titled Seen and Heard. Christy, can you tell us a little bit about where that came from?
Sure. So I'm sure most of you have heard about Abraham in the Bible. You know, Father Abraham had many sons. His story is a little bit of a crazy one. And if you've never heard of the name Hagar, well, you're going to get a lesson in part of this crazy, messy story. So when Abraham was 75 years old, God called him and told him he was going to make him into a great nation, that his offspring would be as numerous as the sand. But the problem was his wife, Sarah, could not have kids. So there was this promise, but it wasn't really seeming like it was going to happen, or how would this happen? And so after 10 years of waiting, after the promise had come, Sarah, his wife, kind of decides to take things into her own hands to figure this out. So let's turn, if you have your Bible, you can turn with me to Genesis 16 or just listen along. It says in verse 1, "Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children, but she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. So she said to Abram, 'The Lord has kept me from having children. Go, sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her.' And Abram agreed to what Sarai had said." In verse 4, "So he slept with Hagar, and she conceived. And when she was pregnant, she began to despise her mistress." All right, so Sarah has this plan to build a family kind of through a surrogate, and it does not really work out as she says. You know, Hagar starts to despise her. And so what does Sarai do in return? Well, she mistreats Hagar. So much so that Hagar decides to run away. She runs in the desert, and she's kind of lost and desperate at this place in the desert. And God comes and meets her in the desert. You know, he says, "Hagar, where are you?" And you can kind of see in verse 8, she says, "Well, I'm running away from my mistress." And so God tells her, "Hey, go back. Don't worry, I've got you. I'm going to make you into this great nation." So in verse 13, Hagar says, "She gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her. 'You are the God who sees me.' For she said, 'I have now seen the one who sees me.'" So that's part of where we get our theme. But Hagar's story is not over. So she has Ishmael, and 12 years after Ishmael is born, Sarah finally gets pregnant, and she has Isaac. But if you can imagine 12 years where the women in the household are not really getting along well, that may seep into the children not getting along well. So Ishmael actually starts mistreating Isaac, his brother. And because of that, Hagar and Ishmael get sent away. They get sent away to the desert. So let's pick up their story in Genesis 21. Verse 14, it says, "Early the next morning, Abraham took some food and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar. He sent them off on her shoulders, or he set them on her shoulders and sent her off with the boy." In verse 15, "When the water in the skin was gone, she put the boy under one of the bushes. Then she went off, sat down, for she thought, 'I cannot watch the boy die.' And as she sat there, she began to sob. But God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, 'What is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Lift the boy up and take him by the hand, for I will make him into a great nation.' Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. So she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink." You know, God was with the boy as he grew. Okay, so there's kind of the crazy story, but that's where we get seen and heard that out of this crazy mess, this family dysfunction, all these things going on. In Hagar's like most desperate, deepest moments, God meets her. And he sees her. He sees into her life. He knows what's going on. He sees her pain and he hears. He hears the cries. He hears the desperation and the longing. And God has a great plan for them. But it draws us so much closer to the heart of God, to in the midst of everything, that we are seen and heard by God.
Yeah. It is so amazing to me how I could miss a lot of that. I can quickly read through this story and just see the situation and feel like this is so unfair, and it's disturbing.
Yeah, it is.
And I love how we stepped back and looked at the bigger picture. And you can see that through the bigger picture, you can see God's heart for her and how he looked out for her and how he had a plan and a promise for her too. And that is the heart of God. I used to think that the Bible it was hard for me to relate to some of the stories. They seemed kind of off the wall and almost fictional. Like when you'd read the story and you're like, wowzers, like, how do I relate to that? But then I started thinking of my own life and all the off the wall crazy things that I've seen in my own family. And I am one of 9 from 4 different women.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
we have many stories of all the crazy.
I'm sure you do.
But when we step back, there's a God that sees all of that. A God who knows all of that, and a God who wants you to know him. And those are so many things that there's so many stories like this in the Bible that when you take a step back and just look at God's character, there's this God who is very involved in people's lives, who wants us to trust him, who wants us to love him. I know for myself, because of the things growing up, I often felt unimportant. I felt alone. And I think one of the reasons why I love the theme this year so much is because it's like seen and heard. Like it's something that kind of speaks to my heart, that it's a desire that's there, but it also kind of is scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
It taps into this place where it's like, ooh, do I dare?
Do I want to be seen and heard?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of easier to just hide behind a smile, hide behind the makeup, hide behind all of the facades that we can put on just to hide our brokenness.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it totally makes me think of the images we try to portray to other people. Like you said, the masks we hide behind.
Facebook.
Yep. Like, having a big fight, but then woohoo, happy me, happy family. And I go, man, I think we use career as a thing that we can hide behind, our jobs, our successes, I think our family, we can even use our family as excuses or things to hide behind. I think a big one for me and women I know is busyness. We don't want to feel broken. We don't want to kind of sit in our pain. So we just keep adding stuff to our schedule. We just keep busying it. And as long as we're go, do, then we don't have to stop and think.
You don't feel it.
Yeah.
Keep moving.
Exactly. I think religion can even be something that we hide behind, that we can check the box to Sunday morning Christian and, reading our Bible but yet we're missing something deeper.
Yeah. I know I've worn my fair share of masks. I I could have been a chameleon. I could change whatever crowd I was around. I could fit in.
Mm-hmm.
I could just become whatever I thought people wanted me to be.
Yeah.
And I'm very social, but I could be in a crowded room and still feel so alone.
Yep.
And still feel unloved. And I think it was hard for me to feel loved because nobody really knew me.
Yeah, absolutely.
They loved what I had presented to them.
Yep.
But if they really knew me, would they still like me? Or
yeah.
And I think we can hide behind these masks because we want validation. We want to feel important. We want to know that we belong and to feel connected to people. So it's safer to just present the presentable parts. But that fear of rejection can also keep us from that connection that we desire.
Yeah.
One of the scriptures that really helped me overcome that fear, it's in Psalm 39. I'm going to skip around a little bit, so it's a wonderful psalm, so just read it all when you read it. Go. But Psalm 139, let's start in verse 1. It says, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely." Verse 7, it says, "Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I were to go up to the heavens, you are there. If I were to make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. For you created my innermost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, God, because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full and well." I can't tell you how many times I've read this psalm, but this is one of the psalms that it was the hardest for me to believe. You can hear it and it sounds so beautiful, but after so much hurt and rejection, and sometimes it's hard to really believe this part. And I think a big part of that is because I had so many misconceptions about God, so many lies that I had believed about myself. And it wasn't until I studied the Bible to really get to know the truth about God. I had believed that God didn't care about me. You know, he's not. Where is he? Where is he in my life? But even when I look at Hagar's life, even though she was going through, he was there. He knew what was going on. He was present. He was just waiting for her to trust him. And in the same way, now it's time for me. Do I want to get to know this God who knows me and loves me? And am I going to seek him and trust him and, you know, find those promises that he has for me? I love the part where it says that, where can I go from your presence? Where can I flee? Like, everywhere we can go, we can be in the darkest place and we can make the biggest mess out of our lives. But even there, he will guide us. So I just really hope that we can have that own hope for ourselves to want to get to know this God who knows you, who knows your situation, who knows your life, and he cares, and he hears you. He hears of your misery, and he wants you to seek him and get to know him.
Yeah, and we don't know what part you are in your journey right now. We're all at different places in our journey, and I think our encouragement to you today is to try to come out from behind those things where you want to hide, from those masks, because you know what? God already sees it. He already knows it, and
Why
that
do we
doesn't
bother
have
pretending?
to. I don't know, but it doesn't have to scare us because we know that He fully loves us, that He has great plans for us. And maybe like Leela, you have some misconceptions about God. Well, what we want to encourage you is to sit down and read the Bible, study it out, get to know really the heart of God for you. Ask a friend, a close friend to sit down with you and look at these scriptures, but do something that will help you draw close to the God who is drawing close to you, that is not afraid of your mess, that has great plans for your life, that loves you so dearly. God sees you and He hears you. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you have a great day.
Thank you.